Like pedophile father, like pedophile son. Hi, I'm Scott.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And this is Church is Lame, the podcast where we fix the church by talking about the stupid things churches do that break the entire body.
So, Scott, the title of this episode is mildly horrifying.
Yeah.
just throw that out there.
Well, you know what? The topic kind of matches the story. So if you remember a couple episodes ago, we talked about quote unquote Pastor John B. Lowe.
Oh no.
And the fact that he tried to disguise just how horrible his abuse of one of his young congregants was, and that he started raping her when she was 16. And now, in a twist of fate that is entirely unsurprising and completely predictable, it has come to light that his son has also been accused by two girls of having been abused. So like father, like son. So kind of the quick timeline of events here is
Sure.
John Lowe II, the head of the church, comes out and does his thing, and the girl comes out the same church service and says her piece and starts the national story that we have all grown to become aware of.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that comes out, a girl comes out on Facebook and says, well, not only has the dad been abusive, but his son has abused me as well, which caused a second person to come out as well. Utterly heartbreaking. We try to bring the fun and the funny and the sarcastic when we can. This is like you said, just horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when we start off, the episode giggling a little bit, and it's like, I'm like, should we be giggling in this close proximity to use of the word pedophile?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels dirty. Of course, I think a lot of it for me is like laugh because I don't want to cry on camera, right?
Yeah. It's funny because last week I had a conversation. We had a commenter who really took us to task for the words that we used. Let me bring it up here. Child molester. The fact that we used the word child molester.
Yes.
They got offended because they felt like we were using a legal term. And if he did not do anything illegal, which in Indiana at the time, having sex with a 16-year-old is not explicitly illegal. And like he really got on us about this.
Yeah.
And like I was kind of amazed that I couldn't seem to get it through. Like the bigger picture is that a child has been abused,
Yeah, it's like the idea that a 16-year-old girl is like not a child. Like I don't know how that escaped this person, the commenter that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And not to mention, like we've talked numerous times about individuals who are in power positions and the power they have over other people. And like, you can't have an equal relationship between a 16-year-old girl and a dude in his 30s who has a position of authority over her.
Yeah. So if I have to laugh or be sarcastic or mocking or mean to drive the point home that this is horrifying, then so be it. Like at this point, whatever gets the message out there, it seems to be fair game in my heart, because I do not want to have conversations with people who are defending this man instead of vehemently protecting the victims instead.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of reinforces, I mean, you use the word, predictably, which it sucks that we can say that word when it comes to this sort of a thing.
Yeah.
But like once you find any kind of power abuse in an organization, there is no surprise when you find more.
Right.
And like the whole, I'll say the conservative, rejecting of the whole Me Too movement, really angers me. Cause it's like, it's cheapening the fact that, these people aren't just jumping on this train. It takes, one person to speak up and somebody else gets the bravery to speak out then.
Exactly.
That's why it happens like this. It's not people are trying to get their 15 minutes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's not only the predictability of, hey, if we see senior leadership doing it, of course we're going to see middle management do it. But it's also the predictability of the nature of many churches to have nepotism as a central function, right? Like generational leadership. you know, my dad was the pastor and his dad was the pastor before that and his dad was the pastor before that. Well, of course, there's going to be a culture of, you know, every son thinks their dad is a hero, right?
Right. Yeah.
Every son looks at their dad as like, you're the most amazing man ever. Not every son, but, you know,
Well, I mean, you know, we become teenagers and start to become jerks.
right.
You know, it happens.
But of course, but then, you know, once again, you add to that, like, not only do I already think of my dad as an amazing man, which he is and always will be, by the way. Frank Wilder, you're the best. But he's a man of God. You know, this particular John Lowe, you know, he's a man of God. He's a pastor of a church. He brings people to the saving knowledge of Jesus, you know. And of course, there's a programming thing is going to happen that the way he lives is righteous. Therefore, I should model my life after his. It seems perfectly rational, right? It seems perfectly rational. Except when you go down that road, not only do you assimilate the positive, but you assimilate all the negative. And instead of doing what you should have done, which is call the police on your dad, now you're emulating his behavior.
Right. You know, and when, you know, my pastor, Pastor Peter, you know, he says that narcissism is a system. And I've said that before on this podcast, I believe, right?
I think so, yeah.
And like, we keep seeing all these things, you know, if it's not this, it's, you know, Ramsey or it's whoever, right? Where we're seeing that like there are systemic issues. And, you know, like every time we cover on these stories, I see more and more the point that he was trying to make in that statement. And it really makes me want to become, I don't know the word, like, you know, jerk, maybe, you know, like a jerk. Like if I see something in church that like I think can be promoting a system of narcissism, right? That makes me want to just lash out against it.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want to see this kind of thing happen in my church.
Right. And it's hard because in the early stages, you feel like maybe I'm seeing something other people aren't seeing, right? Maybe it's not really there. Maybe I'm just kind of wired to be on the lookout for things that aren't really there. And with narcissism, you know, like we all, to some degree, it's part of the human nature to crave people's approval, right? But of course, the narcissist takes that too far, right? The narcissist inserts themselves as the central figure in every situation. The narcissist casts themselves as the hero of every situation, you know? And so it's hard because a lot of times you end up, you either feeling like you're making accusations of something that may not be real, or on the other side of it, you're feeling like, if I make the accusation, what if it's not like, and then I'm absolutely wrong, you know? Like, what if this is a church where this guy's just kind of like this big personality, very exuberant, but he actually is under the leadership of a strong, you know, governing body in the church, you know?
Right.
I understand why people get really, really timid about like standing up to that.
Yeah. And you know, like we were talking about the SBC a little bit before filming, and like how, you know, their story is been unfolding, but like how they're trying to set up, you know, a hotline kind of a thing now.
Yeah.
You know, which is, I kind of want to say is too little too late. Yeah. Right. But it points out like they recognize that the biggest problem is that there's nowhere for people to speak out.
Right.
You know, because when you're locked into this kind of a church, right, you know, you're going to have, you know, the father's going to be defending the son and vice versa. There's probably a lot of complicity with, you know, the church elders or whatever they're called, you know, that are going to side with the pastor first. Because we see that all over the place. You know, people will side with the pastor before they side with the accuser.
Sure.
Because they want to believe that the pastor is more holy than the accuser is victimized.
Right.
Which is just tragic. Like, I mean, how do you, in a smaller church like this, like, how do you fix that?
Yeah. There's weird things that happen in small church dynamics in that, you know, there really is like one or two people that are really driving this engine, you know, the pastor and the pastor's wife, or, you know, and so that person rightfully feels like, I am on a mission from God and I've been given a vision. And so I'm moving forward. But what happens is that the healthy transition never happens then, right? At some point, a church is more than just a leader and his followers. A church is a body, right?
Right.
And so now the body must, I don't want to say the body must take the lead, but the body must function. You know what I mean? Your whole body functions together as a synchronous unit, and everything needs each other, right? And so it's not so much that the body takes the lead, it's that the body works together, right? And so I think the way you overcome these kind of, I don't know, what do you want to call them? Structural deficiencies is by acknowledging that whatever structure you try to create is of little use if the entire body is not involved.
Right. And, like, yeah, definitely, like, as, believers, we need to take ownership of our congregations.
Yeah, totally.
And not just let it be a consumer product that we consume on Sunday, and then when we leave, it's there. It's like the candy bar wrapper is now in the garbage.
Right.
And taking that ownership it's going to be challenging. I mean, if you have a lead pastor who's a very strong personality, perhaps even the person that started that church, that person's sense of entitlement to dominate that congregation can be pretty strong.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't, I don't think we would have gotten most of the New Testament, right? Because, the Apostle Paul wrote all this stuff because of the strong ownership he felt over these churches, but he also expected them to be self-governing.
Right.
And, he kind of chides them when he has to come in and yell at them about things like, dude shouldn't be sleeping with his mom. It's his stepmom, but still, like, it shouldn't be happening here.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think that necessarily needs to be normative for how we, assemble congregations. But I think it should be something we kind of take more seriously.
For sure.
And I think when it comes to individual churches on this level, maybe a good possibility is, maybe not our church isn't going to have this problem, but maybe we can do something at our church level individually, right? Where, our staff can be open to, helping out people from other churches. Right. So it's like, if you're a woman at a church, and I'll say, like, if you're, a young woman, 16 years old, and you feel like you've been taken advantage of in some way, or I shouldn't say feel like, you have been taken advantage in, a sexual way, right? Like, you should be able to go to another church and get help you need from that pastor and that staff.
Yeah.
I mean, or am I just like having a weird pipe dream here that churches would be cool enough to do that?
Yeah. So I think let's kind of game this out here. So you've been abused and you go to another church pastor and say, I need to tell you about this thing that happened to me. I don't think there's a single pastor of any character that would turn that girl away, right?
I would hope not.
So that's the one part of it, is counseling this girl. I think any good pastor of any good church would embrace that challenge. The question is, what does that pastor do to hold the other church pastor in account when we specifically form these non-denominational churches, specifically for the purpose of, I can't tell you what to do and you can't tell me what to do, so go pound sand. Like, I feel like it's an extra step in the inevitable step, which is call the freaking cops. You know what I mean? Like, that's ultimately where it needs to go, is like, oh great, you came here, and hopefully I can help undo the damage that's done spiritually, like any kind of wrong thinking you have about what the church is, about who God is, about what godly leadership is. Hopefully I can undo that damage, but in the meantime, you still got to call the cops.
Yeah. And I don't want to say like that calling the cops isn't the right thing to do, because it is. But of course, when you're in that situation and you've been victimized, you may not feel like you can go to the police. You might feel like they're not going to take you seriously, or they're not going to believe you. Yeah. And you might be afraid that's going to blow up in your face. And I think that's where, staff from other churches can really step in, and guide you to, call the police, here are resources to get counseling. Because, I'm sorry, unless as a pastor, you are a licensed therapist, you shouldn't be merely counseling somebody in that case, like, you can give them spiritual encouragement, but, when it comes to the psychological damage, like they need actual help.
Yeah.
And, I just, because it really is like the worst part of this is that like how long ago in this church and any other church, right? Like how long ago a lot of these things happened before somebody feels like they can speak out about it. And like, that is the strength of the power that domination and victimizing can have over somebody. And I don't think we can overstate that power.
Right.
Because like as dudes, right? Like we're taught like, you yell, scream, punch, kick, do whatever you got to do, make it happen.
Yeah.
And we discourage, women from doing that, culturally. Right. So, or at least maybe not now. I mean, the way, like when I was a kid, like that's how we were kind of socialized to be. Right. So, but there's like an expectation that guys are not going to let this happen in the first place. And then there's like this pressure for, in churches, especially, on the more conservative end of things, where, male authority is like the only legitimate authority sometimes.
Sure.
And oftentimes like the submission to authority is basically like, like the 11th commandment.
Yeah.
And that submission needs to be almost unquestioning. I mean, like, it's so crazy. And it makes me angry that, we as Christians, and I hate to keep saying as Christians, right? I know.
Yeah.
But it's like that the church, us, we can't come together and make it so this can't happen. Like when you had the old church, I mean, before the Great Schism and all that stuff, like you had bishops all over the place, like the Bishop of Rome ended up becoming the Pope at some point. But like it's bishops. So it's like there was leadership, there was one church and there was leadership all over the place. But it's like we don't even have good ecumenical cooperation between churches nowadays. So it's hard to get, Baptists and, United Methodist Church and, from some recent headlines, the Mennonites now probably won't be part of their list either,
Right.
to like, to cooperate. It's just like, it's the cycle of sin is allowed to perpetuate because we as a church cannot come together as the church.
Right. Yeah. And I think that states it pretty well. I want to try doing something new because I don't think that we always do a great job. Like clearly this is a heartbreaking topic. And I think we do a great job of expressing our heartbreak, right? And how horrific this is. I don't think we always do a great job of talking about how exactly does this break the church? Because that's part of our tagline, right? We talk about how the church is broken and how to fix it and the stupid things churches do to break it. So one of the ways I think this breaks the church is that it inverts the community. The church should be a community of trust. But once you find out about a pastor raping young girls, well, now you've got a church full of suspicion, right? A church should be where people feel safe. And now at this house of God where people should feel safe, now you look at everybody in terms of danger, stranger danger, and it totally inverts what the church is and should be to the people that enter the doors.
Oh, for sure. And I think, the kind of like another side of that, is going to be the fact that, when you are a pastor or you're a church staff, you are an agent of God. Like, that is how people are going to see you. Like you are an agent. Like if you are, part of the Secret Service, you're an agent for the Secret Service. If you're an member of the FBI, you're an agent of the FBI. If you're if you're a clergy, you're an agent of God. And, the damage you do to the gospel, I think, is severe,
right?
Because, dudes like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, the new atheists, as they're sometimes called, like these are people that often rail against churches for this exact thing.
Right.
Like as part of their biggest lament, so it's like the damage you do is you give these people more reason to stay away from the church.
Exactly right. Nobody expects people to be perfect, but when you see the church do nothing in the face of thousands and thousands and thousands of cases of reported abuse, it becomes very easy then to make the leap of logic that says, well, if all this abuse can go unnoticed by church leadership, that must mean that it goes unnoticed by God. And that I like, so it fundamentally breaks the idea that there is anything different, holy, or special about God, even if he were to be real.
Right. And I think, another aspect of it from, I already said agents, right? But, as an individual, when you are victimized, you have your agency taken from you. And that is a fundamentally just anti-Christian thing to do to somebody else.
Right.
And when, especially when somebody who's been victimized feels like they can't speak out, right? Like you never feel like you get your agency back.
Right.
And, as a person, like we often are told, by, whatever trendy Christian book of the month, right? It's like,
right.
Like you are to live your whole life or to live your best life or to whatever, like live in the fullness or whatever, or purpose.
Yeah.
But like you take that away from people when your environment is not one in which they can like they can admit to having been victimized.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right about that. And I think the antidote to all of that, like you said, like we've said all the time, radical transparency, radical accountability. It feels weird, right? Because the church is a place that's built on grace. And so a lot of times people take that word accountability and in their mind, they confuse it with the word punishment.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not the same thing. Judgment is mine, says the Lord. We can leave punishment to God. That's fine. Like, I'm not here to punish anybody as if I could, right? I've got no power or no resources to punish anybody except for my 2 kids. And usually their punishment is in terms of not letting them have soda with dinner,
Yeah.
But yeah, so like just to say, Mark and I are not in the business of punishment, and that's not why this show exists, right? There, on the other hand, there's nothing at all wrong or unholy or unbiblical about accountability, about seeing people and their behaviors for what they are and making sure that your church is protected from abuse and from abusers. So yeah, radical transparency, radical accountability. You've got to be able to, just like you said it, you've got to have a safe place where you can say the things that need to be said, where you can admit the abuse that you've gone through. And then you need to be able to trust leaders that when that truth comes to light, that something's going to be done about it.
Yeah, I think that's the number one thing here, is that something has to be done. Accusations need to be taken seriously. We need to not victim blame.
Yep.
As is a tendency. And I think most of all, we need to do like what Jesus told us to, and to love our neighbor as ourselves here.
There you go. Not so hard when you put it like that, is it?
Well, I'd say not so complex. Can be hard though.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like it. Hey, YouTube thank yous. We love to end these episodes by thanking people who subscribed or liked or who've engaged us in conversation. So our latest subscribers, Judy Pendley, Tammy Speicht, I hope I'm saying that right, Speight, has a very kind of German spiked kind of thing to it. And Lee Van, thank you all for being our most recent subscribers. I am, as always, in awe that people are joining us on this journey, and just so grateful that you're part of it. By all means, we'd love to hear from you. So comment on those YouTube videos, or find us anywhere on the web where you can type the words Church is Lame, or if you need to talk to us directly quickly, churcheslamepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we do see that, and one of us will definitely respond to it. So don't be afraid to reach out. Now, I mean, people might have noticed that we just didn't have any comments just now. And because we've done that for the last several episodes, we've had some comments. But the problem is that we've been comment bombed by Rob Bell.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, because he's so angry at us. So it's like we have nothing but Rob Bell comments telling us that we're awful human beings.
Awful human beings. And that's putting it nicely.
I mean, he used stronger language than that, but I mean, I don't want to like out him for, you know, like he has a right to be that angry with us, quite frankly.
Indeed, quite.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we don't want to kick the can. We don't want to kick the can down the road. We want to have Rob on as quickly as possible, and I have a feeling that that becomes more and more likely with the amount of subscribers that we bring on. So, well, once again, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell.
Yeah, and you know, once again, from me, you know, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I know Scott thanks you as well. We're so blessed that you listen to us, that you watch this, however you're getting it. Just because, hey, you know, we're just a couple of dudes with strong opinions, and, you know, we just know that somebody out there is going to be like us. And we're happy that we can reach out to you and that we can connect with you somehow.
Well, no one's quite like you, Mark, but okay.
I'll buy that. Yeah, I know. It's just, you know, be afraid. Be very afraid.
Very afraid.
Yeah. And, you know, so with that, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.